Yo, what's going on, miners? So today we're going to be checking out Vast.ai and the IA marketplace. So let's get right into it. Okay, so today I'm going to be teaching you how to set up your very own Vast.ai rig. This is for intermediate users to advanced users for Linux. Please, if you're just a simple miner and you have a really hard time getting by with some basic stuff, I don't recommend this. You are going to have to know a tiny bit of networking. You know, you're going to have to port forward some ports and things like that. So please just, take all of this into consideration. It's going to be a little more on the advanced side. So let's get into this. So the first thing you're going to have to do is you're going to need to port forward ports 40,000 to 40,019. That's the ports that they recommend you at least start with. You can obviously open more ports, but that's what you're going to need. They have documentation on Vast.ai in the machine setup section in the back. So let's go ahead and let's head into the garage and let's get this thing up and running. Okay, so once you guys make your guys' count, you're going to need to come out to wherever your machine is. Please place it somewhere where it's permanently going to stay, because it's not a regular benchmarking tool like you would think it is. I'll go over some of the caveats of Vast.ai at the end of this video, but as a little disclaimer, this is for intermediate to advanced level Linux people. If you don't like Linux, if you have a hard time with Linux, or that's not really your thing, this may not be for you, right? This is for intermediate users, as well as you need to treat yourself like a data center. You will be penalized for your machine going down. It does count reliability, even if it's not getting work at the current point in time. So you also start off as an unverified user, which I'll go over here in a minute. So it's very key to keep your machine up 24/7. So if you can't do those things, I would suggest you not follow through with this, right? And this isn't for everybody. This is just me testing. So let's get into the video. So the first thing that we're gonna have to do is we need to go into the BIOS of the machine, right? So we have our keyboard, our mouse, monitor, we have everything plugged up. I have a flash drive with the operating system we're gonna be using, which is gonna be 20.04 desktop version. And the reason we're using desktop is the installation goes much more smoother and it's easier to set up. There was lots of errors and things like that with server, but don't worry, we can disable the desktop version and make it only SSH only. But first we have to go into the desktop. So the first thing we're doing is we need to get into the BIOS. So let's go ahead, let's turn our machine on here. If you don't know this, the ECC memory, and there's all these other things in the boot cycle that these Xeons go through. It's just like a typical server. So it is gonna take a second to get going, but we're gonna wanna hit F2 on our keyboard for whenever we do get into the BIOS. So sorry if the fans are being a little loud. I set all the fans on the system to be at 70%. These are Delta fans, so they do move quite a bit of air. So if you're worried about the cooling in this tower, it will be quite nice. It'll be 10 times better than a traditional tower. But we do need to go over some settings here. So the first thing that we're gonna have to do is we need to come down to the boot sequence. Now I do have some other stuff in here. So what I need to do is I'm gonna have to come over here and I need to take this off, and I need to also take off this other one, and we're only going to boot from the USB. Now the reason I'm doing this is I'll go over the caveat in the end, but I have to do a fresh install again. So I figured, why not take you guys for the ride, right? So I had to do several installs to get this perfect. It's not very seamless. It's not like HiveOS or anything like that. So we're just gonna boot from the USB. So we came in here, manually did this. Okay, the next thing we need to do is we need to come down here to the memory map IO, so that way we're above 4G. It's another thing that you need to turn this on right here. So you're gonna want that to be check marked if you have it on your motherboard. So we're gonna keep scrolling down. One other thing you're gonna wanna also turn off is going to be the chassis intrusion, because if you leave doors like this open and stuff like this, it ain't gonna boot right. It's gonna be cranky and it won't work. So make sure to turn off your chassis intrusion. Next, you wanna come down here to performance, and you're gonna wanna make sure that, so right now it has 12 active cores, Okay, but we're also going to want, now you don't want to enable this Intel Turbo Boost. The reason for this is you don't want Intel to control the performance of the CPU or GPU. You want it to maintain it doing its own thing. But now this was disabled by default. Hyper-threading was disabled by default. So we enabled hyper-threading, so this way we have 12 cores and 24 threads. If you don't enable this, it will not have the other threads that you'll need. So that's another thing that you're going to want to turn on as well. I recommend also in the power management as AC recovery is to turn your machine back on when it does lose power. So this way, when it boots back up, it will boot back to where it's supposed to be. Now we're going to come down here into advanced configuration, right down here. We're going to hit enter. And then we're going to put the PCIe link, and it starts off as auto, and we're going to change it to Gen 3. So those are all of our settings. The only now I already had this set up previously for me, but I'm just showing you what you need to have. Now it's just going to boot strictly from my USB, so I can do a fresh install with you guys. So let's go ahead. Let's let the machine kick off, and we'll wait a second while it boots up. Now, this may cycle a few times when you make all those changes. Don't be alarmed. It'll cycle probably 3, 4, 5 times before it actually boots up to what it's supposed to be doing. Okay, we're back online. It's booting back up again. Now this time we are going to be going to the BIOS, or not the BIOS, what am I saying? I'm saying we're going to install Ubuntu. Now this, like I said, is the desktop version, but don't worry, we'll be able to SSH soon enough, but this will make it easier to set these things up. All right, now we're here in Ubuntu. This is the screen that you'll be greeted with next, so let's get our mouse. This is why we have the mouse, because this is a desktop GUI. So let's go ahead and I'll just use it on my shirt here. I don't have a mouse pad. So we're gonna click install Ubuntu. Do whatever languages that you are. I'm doing English. Okay, now, you're not gonna wanna download updates. You're gonna wanna do a minimal installation, and you do not want the third-party crap here, okay? So you're gonna say continue down here. Okay, now you'll be greeted with this section here where it's asking for all this different stuff. Now I have an Ubuntu on here, so I need to do, but you wanna go to the same area, okay? You wanna go to something else, and you wanna click continue. And this setup here is for a single SSD. If you have multiple SSDs, you'll need to reset this up. So I need to delete all this and reconfigure this. So give me 1 minute, please. Okay, so when you first come in here, it's gonna look something like this, right? It's gonna have all of this like this. So we're gonna go in here and I'm gonna show you what things to add and how to set up, because there's a specific way they want you to do it. So you're gonna wanna come over here to the plus symbol, and then you're going to want to change this number from where it's at right now to 16,832, just so you guys can see that. 16,832. Okay, so and then also it's also going to be right here is going to be the ext4 journaling. So that's the type of file system we want. We're going to click OK, and so it just added there as well. Okay, and then we're going to come over here to free space again, free space right here, and we're going to click this, and this time we're going to make another change to how much we have. So now we're going to change this. We're going to change this one to 8192. Okay, and this is gonna be on, okay, the 8192 is gonna be on the swap. So we're going to come over here and we're gonna come down to swap area, okay? And we're gonna click OK. This time we're only gonna do 127 megabytes. And that is going to be on the EFI. So we're gonna come over here to your use as, and we're going to come down to EFI, and then we're going to hit OK. So those are going to be the main ones that you're going to need to use. And then the next step is you're going to need to set up the file system for it's going to be XFS for your main setup. So we're going to come down here. We're going to come down to free space, hit plus, and we're going to say XFS journaling filing system. Okay, and there you go. Now we have our install and thing. Now we're going to click install now down here, because this is where the operating system is going to install. We're using the big XFS file location. Now it's saying, oh hey, blah blah blah, you know, partition this and that, you know, just click continue. It'll do what it needs to do, and just say continue. Okay, so we're gonna click continue again, and then it's gonna ask for location, general location. I mean, everybody knows I'm in Arizona, so there you go. And now we need to enter in our name, which will also be our username. So we're gonna put, you know, I'll just put, you know, King. Okay. And then I'm also going to pick a strong password. So not gonna let you guys see that though. And once you're done with your password, you'll see this screen. So it's gonna start installing. So we're gonna have to wait maybe 5 or 10 minutes. So I'll be back very shortly and we'll continue with the next steps. All right, so when the computer, when you click reboot, when you're done with the installation, your screen will look like this. Okay, so you want to click on your username, obviously, and then we're going to put in our strong password, and then she's going to boot up here. So we can kind of skip over all this other stuff. We don't need to set any of this crap up, so we're going to skip over that. And then you'll come over here and say no, don't send any info to these people. Okay. No, we don't want location services on. We're going to click done because we don't want to set none of the other stuff up. So the first thing we need to do is we need to get to our terminal window, or Control-Alt-T. So once you hit Control-Alt and T and hit it at once, your terminal window will pop up, and then you're going to want to type sudo apt update. Okay. I'm going to hit enter. It's going to ask you for your password again, and once you enter in your password, it will start downloading some stuff from the repositories and things like that. So we'll give it a second here. All right, now what we need to do is it's found 87 packages right here that we need to update. So to do this, what we're going to do is we're going to type in, the next command we're going to type in is going to be sudo apt upgrade. Hit enter. Then it's going to ask you if you want to upgrade this stuff. You hit yes, and it's going to start. The screen is going to start going crazy. It's going to start downloading stuff for quite a while. So this may take, depending upon your internet connection and you know what type of unit you have, processor, RAM, all that. It's going to vary different amounts of time. So now it's actually starting to unpack and install everything. And we don't need this as well. We don't need anything from here. We're doing everything from the terminal. So when this gets done and we get back to, you know, having our terminal, then we'll be back and I'll give you guys the next command. Okay, so once everything is done and you get your terminal line back, you need to do another sudo command. We're going to do sudo apt install space open SSH-server, just like this. Okay, and then we're going to hit enter, and then it's going to ask you if you want yes. So what we're doing now is usually when you do the Ubuntu server install, it'll ask you if you want SSH. We are now installing that feature manually. Now we'll be able to go back to my computer, and I don't have to stand out in my hot garage and work on this thing. So now that this has officially now I can actually SSH into it. So let me find the IP address, and then we'll log into this via PuTTY on my computer. So I'll be back in one moment. All right, guys. So once we've installed the SSH, you will have to use PuTTY. I've used PuTTY before. Like I said, it's this intermediate thing here, so I'm not going to show you how to install PuTTY. It's a basic Windows program. You can get it offline from putty.org. Okay, so now we're puttied in to our system now. The first thing we need to do is get to root, which is sudo su dash, and then we have to enter in our password again. So most of the install will be here on root. So make sure it says root at whatever your name is, okay? Then we're going to need to do some other, we have to disable the generic Linux stuff, the drivers for it. It's called like Noveo or whatever. So we're gonna want to run this command right here, and then we're gonna hit enter. And now I know it's gonna be a blank config file, and I will make a Google Doc for you guys to follow along and enter in all of these commands. This way you guys could follow along and be able to create your own. So then you're going to want to copy and paste these into this config file, and then you're going to do Control X, which will save it, and it's going to ask, do you want to save? You're going to hit Y for yes, and then you're going to hit enter. So the next thing you want to do is you're going to want to run this command, because then it's going to actually say that we're not using these anymore, which is a sudo update init tframs -u. So it's going to be updating this boot cycle. So that way it's telling it to say, hey, don't use this anymore, essentially. All right, now when you get the root, you can go ahead, and now we're going to do apt install in apt install space NVIDIA drivers or driver 525, and then we're going to hit enter again. Hit yes, and this could take some time because, you know, it is a pretty good size file, so it might take, you know, 2 to 5 minutes for this to download and install. Okay, then you'll be greeted with this screen here for secured boot, because this is a to permit the use of third-party drivers for machine owner key. So we're going to hit OK, and then it's going to prompt you for a password. Now I can't show this because it'll actually show my password, and we don't want that. So we're going to enter. I will see you shortly after the screen. Okay, so once you get back and you're back at the command line here, we're going to do a sudo reboot, and then it's going to kick us off of this because it's obviously going to reboot the machine. Now we need to go back to the computer because there's going to be some information that we have to enter in, and this will be the last time we go back to our desktop. So when your rig reboots, it'll come up to this screen right here, and you're going to want to go enroll MOK, because that's the password that we just made. And then we're going to go down to continue, and we'll hit yes, and now we have to enter our password in that we just put in on that pink screen just a minute ago. And then it's going to ask you what you want to do, enroll key from disk or reboot, and we're just going to click on reboot. So now that we're back at the computer, we're going to all you have to do is go to the top of your putty session and re-click restart session, and then it should bring you back to your login screen here. Okay, and then we want to do a sudo su again to be root, which you'll have to enter your password in again. And now we're root. Now we need to install another program called Python. So we're going to do apt install Python, and we're going to hit yes. Now that has, you know, gone through and everything like that. Okay, so the next command before we do the final run command for the Vast.ai is we're going to run this command to make this not run the desktop version anymore, so it doesn't waste our precious resources. So there was a comma right there you need to delete. I will have all of these posted for you guys. So we're going to run this command right now, and it's going to download and install. So after you run this command, you want to do another sudo reboot again. So we'll wait a minute or two for the rig to come back on. Now you will no longer be able to see this particular rig from the desktop from your screen anymore. Essentially, we removed everything, so now it's strictly only going to be able to be seen through putty. So essentially, we're back to running it as a Linux Ubuntu server. So let's go ahead and right-click the restart the session. We might have to wait a minute or more. So it came back up. We're going to log in. And now we need to do sudo su again to make sure that we're root. Now we're going to copy in the Vast.ai command, which is in the account section in Vast.ai. So you need to make an account to be able to copy and paste the command. So remember, please do that before you get this far. This way you'll see your rig come up, right? Okay, so we're at the final step. We're going to hit enter. And now it's going to list all of these NVIDIA drivers. Don't be fooled. We just installed 525. So we want to hit Q and hit enter. And now it's going to start loading the daemon. And be patient here. Just let it do its thing. Now, I haven't figured out what this means or how to get rid of this yet. I've done the XFS. I've tried some other things. It still comes back as a loop back partition, which I don't know how this affects things, right? So as far as the SSD performance, when it has posted my SSD performance, it's actually where it's supposed to be. So I don't know how accurate this is or not. Like I said, this Vast.ai stuff is very tricky. It's very, very tricky. Okay, when you get to this point of the screen, you should be able to see your rig and stuff like that, right? So let's head over to Vast.ai. So once you're signed in, you need to come over to this left-hand side where it has hosting section, and we're going to hit our machines here. Now, obviously, I just loaded this thing up, so it still needs to populate all this stuff. It does take a little bit of time, so be patient with it. So you can see your head at 3060 up here, but then I changed it to a 4070 and it just wouldn't take. So that's pretty much it. And then you come over here to list, and this is where you would list your prices. Like on the demand hour, you're going to charge like, 20 cents, you know what I mean? Your min price, how much for your internet prices. So that's pretty much it, guys. This stuff will slowly populate over time. Just be patient with it. Everything should pop up